Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware. Today's video is a little bit different in that while we are still looking at some very budget hardware in this box, it's actually not for me and it's not going to be for sale. This hardware is actually going to be going off to a local school's eSports team, which is just getting started up, and I'm making a few different donations to the hardware side of that team to get their systems sort of up and running, because right now the systems are working with the old 4:3 aspect ratio monitors. We're working with old pre-built desktop PCs, which actually have okay specs as far as the RAM and the CPU go. I think they're running something like i5 4440s with 8 gigabytes of RAM, which for Overwatch and Rocket League, which are their two PC games, that's fine, but their graphics cards are super old. And by super old, I mean it's something like this. I don't know if it's this exact model, but one of these older graphics adapters, really not intended for gaming whatsoever. So in here we have what should be at least a few RX 460 2GB cards. Now, there are some requirements that I had for the graphics cards that I acquired for these builds. The big one is, of course, that it can actually run the games being provided there, and 2GB RX 460s should be able to run Overwatch just fine at over 60 FPS, because that's going to be sort of the frame limit of our monitors, since we're just using some pretty basic 1080p monitors, at least the new ones that are getting donated alongside the graphics cards. So although they're not going to be getting crazy high frames, this should get them over that 60 mark, and Rocket League should be way above the 60 mark. But then also the power requirements of the graphics cards being purchased. Basically, I was trying to get something that did not require any exterior power, basically could pull all the power from the motherboard itself, because I'm not 100% sure what the power supplies in these systems are. I think they'll be just fine with these RX 460s, but I didn't want to pull anything above that power draw where I would need a 6 or even an 8-pin connector, because I can't guarantee that the power supplies at that point wouldn't need replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this box open. And this was an eBay listing, and this was a person selling some OEM RX 460s, and I think I got these for something like $40 plus some shipping and plus some tax and all that per card, which isn't the best deal out there. In fact, I just got a better deal on some more 460s, because there's only supposed to be 3 of these in here. Feels like one's in there. 2 and 3. Yeah. Oops. I think the seller was just kind of grabbing whatever they had laying around for the packaging materials, because there's some bubble wrap held together with a sticker, and then we have an envelope here that's supposed to be USPS. So we do have our 3 RX 460s sitting here, and I'll give you some B-roll so you can kind of take a better look at them. But the first thing I'm going to do with these cards is make sure that they all work in the test bench, and then I'm going to put one of them in and actually get some benchmarks for Overwatch as well as Rocket League. Now here at the studio office, whatever you want to call my setup here, I do not currently have an i5 4440, which I'm pretty sure is the processor in the systems at the school. However, I do have a Ryzen 5 1600, which I am disabling 2 cores as well as SMT from. Basically, I'm getting it down to being just a quad core processor, which isn't going to be a perfect comparison, but for this purpose, for really just seeing how well the games are going to run on these GPUs, I think that's going to be good enough to get me at least close to the type of performance I'm going to see. First generation Ryzen and even second generation Ryzen chips with the Zen Plus architecture, which I have the 12 nanometer Ryzen 5 1600, they're fairly comparable with Haswell chips as far as IPC goes. So I think that's going to get me close enough to at least get an idea of how these are going to run in the systems at the school when I get there. I am going to limit myself to just 8 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, because again, I want to make things as close to apples as possible. Okay, so I have gone already into the BIOS and disabled 2 cores on the Ryzen 5 1600 as well as SMT. That gets us down to just a quad core processor. We have 8 gigabytes of 2133 megahertz rated DDR4 memory, and the only other thing I need to do now is grab these GPUs and slot them into the motherboard there and make sure they all function, not just booting up, but I'm going to go ahead and throw a firmware test at them briefly just to make sure that they're gonna function without giving me a bunch of artifacting and that sort of thing before I actually do things like replace the thermal paste and get them basically ready to be put into the systems at the school. So getting started with Rocket League at 1080p, and the settings are on the screen that I used here. I saw a fantastic experience with this RX 462GB card. We saw an average FPS of 112, a 1% low of 91, and even that 0.1% low is coming very close to that 60 FPS mark that I like to hit with my 0.1% lows. And we were at 54 there, but we did not really see any sort of frame timing issues throughout. In fact, I think I only really witnessed one kind of hard stutter at any point in the game. And that was just overall a really good experience with this particular card, and it's an easy recommendation. If you're just looking to play a game like Rocket League, the RX 462GB card is a fantastic value. Now we switch over to Overwatch at medium settings at 1080p, and I saw an average FPS here of 102, a 1% low of 77, and a 0.1% low of 72. And all that being said, the frame rate was a lot more variable in this title than it was in Rocket League, whereas in Rocket League it was extremely consistent across the board. Overwatch varies a lot more based on whether you're in a team fight, how much is happening on the screen, is everybody ulting at the same time. All those things are gonna affect the frame rate in Overwatch, but I was still extremely happy with the result that I did see in this title with the RX 462GB cards here. So for both of these games, being that this esports team is just playing Rocket League and Overwatch on its PCs, this is gonna be an excellent card. And the value here is just fantastic because I got sort of a bulk discount by offering the eBay seller a lower dollar figure for picking up 3 of these at one time. And then, like I said, I also picked up another chunk of 4 of them from a separate eBay seller. And in fact, I got an even better deal there. Just to give you a little bit of reference, I think I paid around $40 per card for this lot, and the lot that's coming in the next time around with the 4 462GB cards, I think that one I only paid about $35, plus there was a shipping charge on both of them. So it probably came out to be a little bit more than that, but a really good value considering I'm just trying to get these machines set up off the ground and running and giving these esports players a really good opportunity to actually compete with the other teams they're facing. So that's just about it for the RX 462GB cards. They're gonna make really, really solid esports GPUs for the school they're getting donated to. So those computers are gonna be up and running and actually running the games that those kids are playing at really solid frame rates, especially considering that the monitors are only gonna be 1080p with a 60 hertz refresh rate. We're not looking at high refresh rate monitors right now. Maybe down the road that will be a thing for some of those computers. But right now I'm really just focused on getting these systems up to the point where they can actually be somewhat competitive in those games so that they can also enjoy their time and actually get better at those esports titles, both Overwatch and Rocket League. Though right now I'm focused on getting the Overwatch systems up and going, and then I'll flip over to the Rocket League systems. At least I think that's the plan. But really, this is where I kick it back to you guys. I do want to hear from you, especially if you're playing these particular games, Rocket League and Overwatch. Basically, what GPU are you running your esports style titles on? Are you rocking something that's much higher end, or are you just rocking something that basically just gets the job done at a very low cost? Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, if you like the video and you want to see more like it, give this video a like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are very helpful for the channel. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.